Welcome once again here on the Regional Radio Sports Network. My name is Paul Condry. I'm the president and founder of the Regional Radio Sports Network. We welcome you to the Tony Natali Show. Tony, the longtime coach here at Bethel University, now there's the athletic director. Tony, I tell you, we've had a chance over the course of the last quarter of a century to do a lot of things together, from doing many radio shows to getting on the buses and traveling all over God's green earth to just kind of hang out and do all the stuff that we get a chance to do. So great to have you here on this first program. And as we're going to go through this whole scenario of the landscape of athletics during the course of this school year. But it's an exciting time here on the campus in Mishawaka because we're probably going to have upwards to 520 plus athletes, which is a huge difference from when you started as the AD just a couple seasons ago when you had a 375. So the growth dynamic here on the Mishawaka campus is pretty exciting for y'all.
Yeah, it's been a great run. I tell you, our coaches have done a great job of continually recruiting great kids and continually beat our goals and surpass those things. So our coaches have done a great job of not just bringing in kids, but bringing in great kids and kids that really want to embrace what Bethel's about and continue to grow and develop as people as well. Well,
for a lot of people may or may not understand, but you end up going to Purdue as a student. You had a chance to do some work at Bowling Green State University. You had a chance to work for two of the legends in the Crossroads League in basketball, the legendary John Grimes at Marion College at the time, and then, of course, the legendary Mike Lightfoot here, Hall of Famer, NEI Hall of Famer. We can go on and on about what Mike has done here on this campus. So you had a chance to work for two guys who I know really pretty well. And I want to start with there, talk about the influence that those two guys had in your life and your development, not only as a coach, but as a guy who's engaged with athletes, as a recruiter. They all had both those guys had a huge influence in your life.
Oh, for sure. And I have been so blessed to work with great people the entire time I've been coaching and now as an AD. And those two gentlemen are definitely top of the list. Coach Grimes took me on my first full-time coaching job. Was at Marion and was there 8 years with him and learned a lot, not just about basketball and how to put practices together and relate with kids, but just the whole dynamic of how athletic departments work, because he was the AD as well at that time. And then after 8 years, had a chance to come back here where I grew up here in Mishawaka with Coach Lightfoot and had a chance to work with him, and that was phenomenal. And I say this all the time, I give Coach Lightfoot a ton of credit because especially my last 7 or 8 years of coaching with him, he turned over the defense to me, and I really appreciated that because he definitely had input, but he let me make mistakes. He let me coach through that, and to have a Hall of Famer and a coach of quality of him to be able to do that was pretty amazing. And to have an opportunity to work with Ryan Lightfoot, and he did the offense, I did the defense. We had a great situation, and it felt like it was a lot of fun. So I definitely learned a lot from both of those gentlemen and how to coach, how to relate to kids, and just how to lead departments as well.
Well, a lot of things that people may or may not know from Tony's perspective. The track program here at Bethel was really kind of non-existent for all intents and purposes, and you turned a program really from its infancy into a national power, both not only at the NCCAA level, but also at the NAI level. And you can look at the numbers are staggering. 15 NCCAA national champions, 12-time NCCAA track and field coaching staff of the year, 14 Crossroads League championship, 10 in track and field, and of course in some in basketball. So you've been blessed to start something from scratch. And when you're the AD, you're kind of doing that in many ways. The athletic department is established, but you want to have your own signature. You want to put your own stamp on things.
Sure.
So let's talk about really kind of starting this program and taking it to a whole nother level.
Yeah, I've been blessed to be around a lot of good ADs. I was around not Coach Lightfoot, like you mentioned, but also Mark Lance, Jody Martinez,
sure,
folks like that. And it was just really good. Tom Visker was just great to learn from. Before I became the AD. So I was around some great people, and that was phenomenal. The other thing it was just an opportunity to do is, like you said, to take the things that those guys have done and take it to the next level. One of the things is where we're sitting right now in this lobby, the First Source Bank Championship Plaza, and it's just something that I've wanted to do for a long time and just make it look a little more professional, a little more updated, and I feel like our kids now have really embraced this. They come in, they see the virtual Hall of Fame that we put in, they see our new furniture we have in the lobby and the things we were able to do last year as well, and it's good for them because they get a chance to take pride in that. The other cool thing is when you see alumni come back during basketball games, they come in here and they see this and they take pride in it as well. So we want to do things facility-wise, make our kids, be excited about the place. We also want to make sure we give our current student athletes the best possible experience we can, and that's what I've talked about since we started 5 years ago, and we've made a lot of changes with that in mind. Literally every decision I make has two things that I think about, and that's are we honoring Christ in what we do? Are we Christ-centered? And are we giving our student athletes the best possible experience we can? Those are the two things. And if the answer is yes in both of those, in my mind, then we move forward with it.
You look at the landscape of education-based athletics today across the country, both from the NAI level to the NCCA level to the NCAA. Mm-hmm. There's so many different variables. There's so many different things. Everybody has their own little particular problem and area of concern. And right now, the thing that's consuming us all at the NCAA level is conferences are basically falling apart as we speak. And we're seeing some of that. One of the things that has been stable, and at the NAI level, especially here, has been the Crossroads League. The Crossroads League has been about as stable as a league has been in really the last almost 2 decades, which is really kind of rare in its own right that it would be that way. So let's talk about the Crossroads League. Let's talk about the landscape of education-based athletics at the college level and some things that maybe are concerned to you or that you're absolutely thrilled that it's going in that direction. That's got a wide open thing to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of great things going on. Like you said, the conference is doing great. Larry DeSampler has been just a phenomenal commissioner, and it's been great to have the opportunity to work with him and alongside him in many, many areas, and learned a lot from him as well. So it's been really good to be a part of that. That stability is great. The conference is just stacked in every sport. Ryan Summers said cross country stacked. It is definitely stacked, but it's like that in every sport. So there's a lot of great things like that. The biggest challenge that I see is two things come to my mind. One is the transfer portal that even affects us, and it's just a different world than even when I coached. I coached Rabin, and I talk about this a lot. The basketball landscape in the last 5 years, 7 years since I coached basketball, 5 years since I coached it all, it's 100% different. And the way you recruit, how you recruit, who you recruit, it's just different. So the transfer portal has really been challenging in many ways, and not necessarily bad ways, but just in many ways, because you got kids. I just came back this weekend. This is a great example from the Purdue alumni basketball day they had there. Mm-hmm. And one of the guys that played, one of the guys that was very involved, spoke to the other alumni. I was part of talking to him, was Eric Hunter.
Sure.
And Eric Hunter didn't graduate from Purdue. He went to Purdue, and he finished up at Butler, but he's playing in the Purdue alumni game. And I thought that was very interesting because he left Purdue to go to Butler to finish up his collegiate career. So it's just a different world that we're living in with the transfer portal.
You mentioned that Steve will come to you and ask you questions, but you've also said that it's 5 years since you coached. And so when someone comes to you and seeks advice about something that you haven't personally ever experienced, because the landscape is nowhere near it. So talk about having the wisdom and the wherewithal and the discernment to be able to get into a position to you can say to Steve or any of your coaches, well, this is what it was like when I was coaching or when I played, and I know I do that a lot. So how do you sit down and go with him, okay, well, we're going to be on this journey together. So that's a unique situation for you.
For sure. If he comes and talks to me about defense, that's easy because that doesn't change. That's the same. So we have great conversations about that. But if he comes in and talks to me just about the landscape and just the world that we're living in, as an AD, I'm in contact with all these student athletes all the time. And he'll talk to me about recruiting and talk to me just about relational things. And one of the things I'm just a big believer in, and I'm 62 now, and we're getting up there a little bit, even though I don't feel that way. But I have to meet kids where they're at. I have to make sure I change along with them, not my morals or my base values, but I have to change the way I approach things. Because if I don't, I'm going to get left behind, number one. Number two, I'm not going to be able to relate to these kids today. So I know what I need to do, how I need to do it, and how I need to relate with them to make sure I get that to their level. And then I can talk to them about Jesus and talk to them about their relationship with Christ and where they are in that walk. And they're very, very much more receptive when I meet them at their level instead of coming at them from where I was at way back a long time ago. So I just try to meet them where they're at, and I give Steve that advice, just meet them where they're at, talk to them, develop that relationship, their trust, and once you have that, then we can get to the real important stuff, which is Jesus.
The case in point that athletic directors that you find yourself in is very unique because you have some guys and gals on this campus who've got some whiskers. Seth Zartman, who's 20-plus years as the baseball coach, about as stable as they can be out there, a great guy. And Chris Hess has been around here for longer than a quarter of a century. And so you've got some guys who have been around the block. Diago Pinto, the NEI Coach of the Year and National Championship coach, been around a lot. But you've got some new people. So you've got to go through the hiring process of getting somebody new. You did that with Robert Frost, a new coach. And now you find yourself in a situation when you're hiring new people. You gave up your job as the track coach. So who am I going to pick to be my track coach? And so you look at Danny over there. So talk about the hiring process that you have to go through in doing that, especially when you know that you've got some guys on your campus who certainly have fallen in love with this place enough to stay for their career.
Well, first of all, I am extremely blessed because as I talk to other NEI ADs, as I talk to other folks like that, their turnover is just all the time. They're replacing 10, 12 coaches a year, and I've been really blessed because I've not had to do that. And like you mentioned, we have a whole bunch of coaches, a whole bunch of people who have been here a long time, and that's been really good. I tell you, the hiring process, the other end of that, if you need to make a change, that is probably one of the most difficult things I do because I take that very seriously because, like I said, I'm all about the student athletes. And when I hire a coach, to me, that's who's going to be around those kids all the time. So to me, that's a very daunting task, and it's one I take very much seriously because I want to bring in the kind of person that fits our culture. And our culture is very unique, and I'm proud of our culture. I think that's what really runs this whole department is our culture, to be honest with you, everything from the coaches to the athletes to all the way through. So when you look at a coach, there's some really good coaches that I've interviewed over the past 5 years that in some of these sports that had great resumes, but I just didn't feel like they would be great fits in our culture for different reasons. So, you take a chance and you hope you hire the right ones, and God's in control. You do a lot of praying. You just try to really make sure you're in tune with Him and bring in someone who fits this culture, who can really buy into what my vision is with our people. And they have to make sure that Jesus is first. They got to make sure that they're very student athlete oriented. If it's all about them and winning, that's not going to go over very well. And we want to win. That's one of our cultures, and we talk about being competitive all the time. And so that's important, but they got to understand that's a byproduct. That's not what we focus on. We're successful when we win as a byproduct of our culture. And for them to buy into that, it takes a special person.
When you speak to the aspect of coaching, and I'm going to go back to what you mentioned before about Coach Lightfoot handing over the defense to you and how he had confidence in you, and you were in that same situation where you were handling responsibilities off to certain people, whether it be assistant athletic director Chris Hess or the young Luke Schrock, who's done a spectacular job as a sports information director in just a year and a half that he's been here, as well as even stuff with me because we do a lot of things together because I'm kind of a fixture here at the Mishawaka campus doing lots of events. So you've got to be able to delegate. You've got to be able to know that you can go and speak candidly to the people who you need to have conversation. You and I probably have the most candid relationship of anybody who, if I had a brother from a different mother, you would be the one, right? And you've got to be able to speak candidly about things that are important with one thing in mind, that Bethel University and with Christ at the helm is really the core of all those things, correct?
Right, for sure. And I think there's several things that go into that. One, to empower people. You got to really empower folks to take on that responsibility.
Right.
And I think there's a teaching component to that. There's some of that, this learning. And then once you've done that, when you turn things over to folks, you got to let them succeed or fail. You can't just bail them out every time. It's kind of like your kids, right? Your kids move on, and I know with Cassie and Hannah, with my two daughters, that you try to teach them well, and they made mistakes. They did great things, but I look at them now, and they're mothers or their wives, and they're doing phenomenal. But they've made mistakes along the way. So you got to empower people. You got to let them make their own mistakes, and then you got to hold them accountable. And I feel like that's probably the thing that people struggle with sometimes, because accountability can be equated with yelling at somebody.
Sure.
And that's not the way I look at accountability. Accountability is saying, okay, here's what we did. Here's, this worked, this didn't. Let's talk about why this didn't work, and let's learn from that, and let's get better at it. That's not a negative. It can be very much a positive. But I think that accountability is something that people lack, because nobody wants to confront anybody anymore because they're afraid of what's going to happen if you confront them. But I still feel like if you confront people in the right way, and with the right heart and the right mindset, it can be very, very good. But the whole basis with that is having a relationship with that person first. And I feel like if you have a great relationship with those people that you're working with, and even the student athletes you're working with, they'll be very receptive to what you're talking about.
All right, the landscape of the Crossroads League is very, very unique. Faith-based institutions, it's very unique. There's just not a lot of leagues around the country as like that. And you mentioned, and I would agree with you, that Larry DeSimple has done a bang-up job, if you will, of leading this league to another lefter after J.D. Collins left. Having said that, there are challenges for this league as well, too, because it doesn't the values as a whole are not the same as they were in, let's say, another league across the country. And even within the infrastructure of the Crossroads League, the playing field is not level. You have some schools who the money is differently divided, and you have some schools that really are well funded. I'll use that terminology the best I can. So, but still, in the main fact, as the athletic director, you want your kids to be able to compete. You want your kids to have the ability to win. But at the same time, you want to be able to have the balance of saying that, listen, these are the rules that we have to play within, and we have to stay within our own budget. So we have to stay within the lines, if you will, of what we can do here. So talk about juggling all that to try to be competitive, not only in your league as well as nationally.
Yeah, I think people use excuses on things way too much. There's always excuses. There's always reasons why. I look at being where I am in my life, and I know this is going to come as a shock to all the people listening, but I've never been a tremendous athlete. But so to spend my whole life.
Really?
I know.
Gosh.
I can't dunk a basketball,
wow.
It's just the way it is. But, to have my whole life spent in athletics, if somebody would have told me that when I was 18, I would have been like, yeah, right.
Me too. I'm with you.
So, I'm not into excuses. Track team, you mentioned. We've been able to do all those things. We have a tremendous track building now with the Lehman Center, but we had nothing. I mean, we were running through this hallway. We're throwing shot put and disc in Goodman and about killing people as they walk through. And, there's a lot of excuses. And to me, that was a reason for us to be successful. And I always told our kids, we're going to win. And when we win, we're going to win with cruddy facilities, because it's going to mean more to us than somebody who has great facilities. And they bought into that. And so to me, I think excuses can go way too far. I just think it goes way too far. So first of all, how you can be competitive, I think you got to start with the mindset of here's what really is important. You have to have something to hang your hat on. We just had a coaches meeting on Sunday with all of our staff, and I told them, I said, we have a great campus. We have so many great things here, but we don't have all the bells and whistles that some of the schools in our conference do. So that can't be what we hang our hat on. So what is it that we hang our hat on? What is it? And in my opinion, the thing that we have to make our niche, and we got to make to our kids, the most important thing is the fact that we can be excellent in all we do. I see so many people, and even so many coaches that I know, that they're departmentalized. They can be great at coaching, but maybe the spiritual part's not so good. Or they're great in the spiritual part, but the coaching's not so good, or whatever. And to me, I challenge our coaches all the time. God calls us to be excellent in everything we do, not just part of our life. I don't want to be excellent just as a husband. I need to be excellent as a father,
exactly.
As an AD, as everything. So I tell them we got to be excellent in everything we do, and that's going to be our niche, because I don't think many people do that. So I challenge our coaches to do that every day, and hopefully our kids see that and they realize, man, I got coaches that, number one, will push me athletically because they want us to win. Number two, Jesus is the middle of everything we're doing. And third, they care about me as a person, not just an athlete, not just what Just Surety shoots on the golf course, but as a person. And I think that's really important difference than what a lot of people do in today's world in athletics.
What do you miss the most about being a coach every day, practice planning, bus rides, the interaction with the guys, devotions? If you're on the road making a long road trip. Some of those were some really neat experiences. I've traveled with you years past to Branson, some of those NAI national tournaments, NCCAA stuff. And those are things I got a chance to watch you do your thing. I would agree with you. You were not a very good athlete, but it was neat to watch you out there. So, but having said that, though, what do you miss the most about being an everyday coach? And not only are you coaching men and women, but you're also coaching your coaches.
Right.
So talk about the difference.
And
what do you miss?
Man, that's a tough question. I tell you, I look at different things. With track, it was very relational. It was all the recruiting I did.
Sure.
Danny Wilkerson and Ryan Summers, all the other coaches did all the training. I did all the recruiting. I did all the relational stuff and all the spiritual stuff. And I missed the relational part of track like that because there was a lot of conversations with kids all the time at deep levels. And I look at all those kids that came in that had no idea what Bethel was about, but they graduated. I look at Thomas Jackson, who was a national championship, who a national champion in long jump many times. And he before he graduated, the most important thing he did was he accepted Christ. He was baptized, and he's a follower. And I feel like that's awesome to see that. And even the kids that everybody's at a different walk. They're at a different space in their walk. It doesn't matter. Just the conversations we can have in their life. It just doesn't matter where exactly they're at. But I miss that. I miss the practices in basketball. I know that sounds crazy, but I miss the practices because that was our time to get better. Probably the thing I missed the least is the games, because to me, that point, by the time you got to the game, it was just an opportunity for them to go out and play and execute the scouting report that we talked about. But
I like the games.
Oh, I tell you what, I love the practices. I loved, and Coach Lightfoot could tell you this, I loved to try to outsmart people, if that was a good way of putting it. I love doing, as you know, the scouting reports and our
those were hard to read, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you that.
I went to putting them on Word and typed them up for you.
Yeah.
But anyway, I love trying to do things to confuse people that we played, because we did things differently every game. We did not do the same thing 2 times in a row, and I feel like that was I enjoyed that. I thought it was fun to look at the other coaches and look at their faces when they didn't know what was coming at them.
What the heck is he doing out there?
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. I probably missed that more than about anything.
Okay, let me give you this as a wrap-up, and as a mom or a dad or a grandfather or a grandmother right now watching this program and thinking, hey, I like this guy. Not a very good athlete, but he's a great administrator. He's got his act together. He's creating a great spiritual environment. So I want you to tell the prospective mom and dad or grandma, grandpa out there why it's important to send their student athlete, their grandson or granddaughter, son or daughter, to Bethel University to be a part of this institution in the big picture.
Yeah, well, the big picture is, the academic programs are great. The people on this campus are phenomenal. Administration is great. There's so many people that care about you. We're all about our people, and we have to be. It's got to be about our people. And from the athletic department, which is what I really and naturally know the most about, your son, your daughter, grandson, granddaughter will be taken care of at a very high level. I just met with the recruit yesterday and told them that you'll become a better basketball player, but more importantly than that, you're going to become a better person. You're going to really work on your walk with the Lord, and you're just going to work on maturity. And by the time you get out of here, you're not going to be the same person you came in. You think you see that with some of the volleyball players you talked about. They're phenomenal young ladies. Not that they were not that when they came in, but they just matured. They've matured. So I think that we're in a position here athletically that we can just really hone in and focus on these kids and really work with them in every aspect of their life. Again, we want to be excellent in all we do, so we want to work on every aspect of their life.
Finally, it's pivotal here at Bethel University, as well as institutions across America, that we continue to not only pray for our student athletes, but it's also an imperative situation that financially that you get involved in helping. And I know raising funds to be able to give the student athlete the great experiences of responsibility that falls under your leadership, as well as mine with our programming at Regional Radio Sports. And so it's pivotal. So in closing, let's talk about how people can help you help the student athletes here at BU.
Well, first of all, I was really excited last week because the what's it called, the basketball tournament, the team that won that was the GM was Homer Drew, the coach is LaFonso Ellis, and Travion Cruz played on that team. and they won the whole thing, so they won $1 million. So if you three of you are listening, I'll be calling you next week because part of that $1 million needs to come back to Bethel Athletics. But anyway, it's just an opportunity to give back to what we're doing, and we're doing some special things. Even we're implementing this year that are different that I can share later with our current students to teach them how to give to Bethel, because I'm convinced that this generation, it's not their fault. They don't give back to where they came because they just don't know how to do it. So we're going to implement some things this year with our student athletes they may or may not like, but they're going to be taught how to give to their university. So yeah, if anybody's listening that wants to help really change a life, and that's really what you're doing when you give to Bethel Athletics. You're changing people's lives. If anybody's interested in doing that, you can get a hold of me on the website. My email's on there, my phone number's on there. I'd be love to talk to you, come meet with you.
And I will say this, that my wife Tanya and I have been big supporters of Bethel University athletics for going on 20-some-odd years, as well as some of the great missions trips that the student athletes are going on. I know we were able to help support some of the missions trips this year. I know that Steve Draven took his men's basketball teams down to the Dominican. I spent some time with Steve yesterday and just told me about how the lives were transformed. So if you want to make an impact in this community at Bethel University, I would strongly consider that you get a hold of Coach Natali, Coach Huss, whatever the case may be. All the contact information is available on the website. We'll be doing this show once a month. I'm looking forward to having you on and doing this thing over the course of the next couple months.
Looking forward to it. I think it's a great step in the right direction. Looking forward to getting the school year off on the right foot.
Tony Natali, Athletic Director Extraordinaire here at Bethel University. That's going to do it for the first edition of the Tony Natali Show. For all of us at Bethel University and the Regional Radio Sports Network, I'm Paul Condry. God bless you all.